Thank you for watching our series on how to build a shed. For our final part, we're going to finish up our fascia, our trim, our roof, and our siding. So to get started, first we finish all of our house wrap. We wrapped our walls when we stood them, but we still have to do our gable ends, and then make sure that the top of your house wrap overlaps the bottom of the house wrap. After we finish our house wrap, then we do our fascia. You're going to cut your gable end fascia the same way you did your rafters, so you can go ahead and look for that link and watch how to cut that to get your right angles. And then on your sides of your building, you're going to make sure that your fascia sits just slightly lower than your roof sheathing, so that way your shingles don't slope. All right, so remember when we were laying out our trusses and we said that we were going to do a 2x6 top plate that overhangs our wall? Well, this is why. So we put on our fascia, trying to hold the camera, balance on a ladder. So we put on our fascia so nothing can get up underneath our fascia. And then also the gap from your rafter, your fascia closes that gap up. And then of course you have a drip edge that goes, well, under your felt and over this on the bottom. On the sides it would go over your felt. But then that seals all this. If you wanted to, if you were going to finish this building off for, a bunkhouse or a fish house, you could spray foam this cavity and that'll fill, you have just a teeny gap here. And that would fill that in and make it really tight, even though your drip edge takes care of that for a shed purpose. But spray foam that and you get no bugs, no moisture, no wind, no nothing. So that's just one little trick that we have. All right, and then when we hit a corner, what we're gonna do is just lay our square with the edge of the building, and we're gonna mark this line, and we're gonna make sure to cut this lip too. And when we do that, we'll just be able to fold it right around. On all your roof, your drip edge goes over the top, except for on your eave end, your drip edge is gonna go underneath your felt. So that way water flows up and over and down the side. So now we've gone ahead and cut that. You see I've cut it. I can't see the camera, I'm just guessing. Sorry, it's difficult on a ladder. And then we're just gonna fold this around. And up and underneath. Just like that. And we have a nice sharp corner around our edge. We've come up the gable end here. We get up, and all I do is I just hold my square right here, right along the seam, and then I draw my line. And if you cut that line and then fold this piece behind this piece, you'll have a nice straight line right down. It'll look really good. And now you're on to doing felt paper and shingles. It's pretty easy. You always just start at the bottom and work your way up. That way everything overlaps and water runs right down. You can use whatever shingles you want, and the directions for how to cut them so they're staggered are on the box. You don't want your seams, all in a line. You got to stagger all your shingles. So just read the directions. It'll tell you how to do it. And then also I did use starter strips, but I filmed this on time-lapse, and it did not catch a single starter strip being nailed on. So you don't see them, but they're on there. So starter strips at the bottom, your shingles. And then when I got to the peak, I was able to cut my shingles in 3 equal pieces. So each one was 14 inches long, and just fold them over the peak. Rather than buying, ridge cap shingles, you can just make your own. We are on to siding, the part that makes our building look pretty. Some things that we should point out before we get started on siding though, is this, the house wrap on your building is considered the exterior of your building. So you want to do all your waterproofing at this layer. Your siding is not waterproof. It's meant to breathe through. It has holes in the bottom for water to drip out. If you get wind-driven rain, it can blow in. So this is the exterior of your building. So you need to make sure that when you do this, you do it right. So all of your house wrap, you start at the bottom, you work your way up so everything overlaps. Water follows gravity. So you always need to think of, how is water going to fall off my building? So some things that we need to do is we need to tape all around our windows. We can't leave this because water can get back in here and into our building. So we just use tape, and we're going to start at the bottom of our window, and then we'll tape up the sides, and then we'll tape up the top. Another thing is when you go around your door, whether it's an overhead door or a swing door, whatever it is, you want to make sure that you put a drip edge over the top of this. So any water comes down and over the side, it doesn't seep behind. And this will get nailed on as well. So it'll sit up here, cut to the right size, sit up here, and this will get nailed and taped along the top as well. We don't want any water getting in. All right, so for J channel, you want to start with your verticals first. And what you're gonna do is measure from the bottom up to the top where it ends and cut it off. But you're gonna leave the face part of it 3/4 of an inch tall. Well, I guess I should specify, you're gonna leave it however wide this is how tall you're gonna leave it. So this happens to be 3/4 of an inch, so we left it 3/4 of an inch tall. Okay, and then nail it on so it's that little nubbin sticks up above. And then what you're gonna do is take your horizontal one and you're gonna cut it longer than you need. You're gonna cut out the bottom here so it folds over, and then you're gonna cut a 45. The inside of this 45 to the inside of the 45 on the other piece should be your exact width of how wide your door is. And the idea is that when you put it all together, this is going to sit inside this channel, and it's all gonna fit together so that this little lip right here, this inside one, fits inside right here. I know it's hard to see on a camera, especially moving around, but this is how it will go together and fit up there. And everything gets held together nice and tight, and any water that falls into this channel is directed over the edge and falls inside this edge, rather than if you didn't have this, it would fall and seep all in between this, which is fine. Water gets in there, that's the exterior of the building, but if we can eliminate some of it, that's best. So that's what our goal is. And I think it's easier to show you with scrap pieces than it is to show you with the real pieces we put it up. So let's get at it. I prefer to use steel starter strips at the bottom of the building, even though I'm using vinyl siding. I just find that it's easier to work with. You want to get that on as level as possible. So either a laser level or a chalk line would work good. And nail that on, and then you're off to the races. All right, so we've sided all the sides and we're up to our gable end, and we need to cut our angle. Your measurements might be a little bit different than what mine are, depending on where you put your starter strip and how you did everything, but I'm going to teach you how to get your right cuts. So on our particular building, we're going to use this to symbolize that gable trim piece that we nailed our fascia on. So it's flat for a little bit and then it turns and comes up. So what we have is a little over 2 inches that we need to come up, and I'm going to use a Sharpie to show you how we do this. You're going to use a pencil, but I'm going to use a Sharpie so it shows up on camera. So we need to come up 2 1/4 inches on ours. Okay, and then this piece sits in 2 1/2 inches. So we're going to measure in 2 1/2, and then we're going to square up that line. So now we need to cut this out and triangle up. Now we have a 412 pitch roof. So for every 1 inch that this comes up, we need to go over 3. We have 7 3/16 inches from the top to here. So we're going to take 7 3/16 times 3. 21 9/16 is right there. And then we just take our straight edge and we connect the top to this line, just like this. And that's our angle. We repeat that on the other side, and we have ourselves our pitch. So we'll go ahead and trot this out in pencil, so it's sharp lines, so we have a nice fit. You don't want your siding to fit super tight. You want it to be loose, because in the sunshine it's going to expand, in the cold it shrinks. Even when you nail it on, you're not going to sink your nails tight. You're going to leave your nails loose. Your siding should fit loose. All your edges should be loose. If you do that, then you don't get the ripples on the hot days. All right, and our final little peak piece is just a little shorter. It is going to be 28 inches wide at the base. So we're just going to put our mark to cut that. And so half of 28 is 14. So we're going to mark our center. Now, to find our angle, remember it's a 412 pitch. So we're just going to take our 14 inches and we're going to divide that by 3. So for every 1 inch we come over, for every 3 inches we come over, we have to go up 1. So 14 divided by 3 gives us just shy of 5 inches. I believe it's 14.6, or 4.6 some odd inches. So a little over 4.5. So we'll come up 4.5. Find our mark, and there's center. That's where our peak is. We'll take our straight edge. We'll carry that over and hopefully it fits. And there's our last and final piece.
For this side.
For this side. And then we get to do the front and we're done.
Woohoo!
I like to just nail it in with just little nails. You can certainly use, they make pieces of trim that can fit up here to hold this, but this works pretty well. And then we take our multi-use eraser and take off our little pencil mark. Ta-da!
Ta-da!